if you look at people who are highly creative in some way, so people with bipolar disorder, you know, a fair percent of their life, a whole part of their brain is turned off. And when that's turned off, it releases other parts of the brain. It may release creativity. It's like with psychopaths, if you can turn off the orbital ventromedial cortex and amygdala, if you turn that off, then you allow other things to float free. And in fact, there's a higher percentage of creativity in psychopaths, a higher percent in schizophrenics, certainly in schizoaffectives, and people where there are parts of the brain turned off, then seems to allow other parts to then fully function without any brakes on. And so, and so people who have that, you know, like shamans who have schizoaffective disorder, or, you know, people who have psychopathy, they are, what they have turned off are the parts of the brain that socialize you, that say, don't do that, that's evil, don't do that, it's going to hurt somebody. Well, if that's turned off, you're wide open. It's uncorked headers. I mean, uncorked headers is a term from when we were growing up with hot rods, right? And you have the headers that come off the engine on hot rods, and then you take the mufflers off and you just straight out, boom, 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 boom. Those are uncorked headers. So it's a brain on uncorked headers. And so you can see how somebody who's not socialized, who said, don't do that, don't, your conscience, it not only inhibits unacceptable antisocial behavior, it inhibits creativity at the same time. So I think what they have in common, these psychiatric disorders, one idea is that there's this thing called P, a factor P. You know, it's like an intelligence, Spearman's G, there's some undefined intelligence quotient that everybody knows it when they hear it. You know when you're talking to somebody really smart and they have G, you know, they have Spearman's G. Of course, well, there's this other, you know, idea of a P for psychiatric disorders, of all those related disorders that of the ones we're talking about. And though they all have a common sort of pathology. And that's why, you know, many times it's hard to distinguish them. They say, well, there's no such thing as psychopathy because it overlaps with narcissistic personality disorder, and it overlaps something with borderline, and it overlaps a little with schizophrenia. It's because all this overlap means it's not a pure thing, which means that there's something else probably going on. And that's something, other core problem, maybe neurodevelopmental and genetic, is the P, could be, that's the P, right? So it's this P is this common factor, but the P factor also releases the brain and it seems to make more people creative. It's very hard to find really straight, normal, you know, law-abiding citizens and who are perfectly fine, who are creative, right? It's hard to find them, and you want to be that. You want to marry that. You want to be around. You want your kids to be that. But usually, with some creativity, you're dealing with a problem somewhere, and so I think that's one way of looking at that.